Welcome back, YouTube family. Today, I wanted to talk about my main spirit guide. I wanted to talk about how I met him and how I got to know him and how he was able to come through for me in the physical world. So, if you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and this is my new YouTube channel called Growing Up Shaman, where I tell true stories about non ordinary reality from the perspective of a shaman. So, I was 16 years old when I had a dream about meeting my spirit guide. At the time, I didn't know that's what he was. I just knew that this was a very significant dream. So, in this dream, I was an Indian woman, and this must have been during a time before there was even America. There were no roads or cities, and I seemed to be in the process of getting what's not unlike a marriage today with an Indian man. And we were standing in front of a field of wheat and the sun in between both of those things. And we seemed to be in this ceremony where we were binding our souls for all of time. And what was interesting about this dream was that I found myself speaking in a different language, a language I've never heard before. So it wasn't just that the sounds sounded foreign to me, but the concepts that we were actually discussing seemed foreign to me as well. But yet I seemed to understand them. So I woke up from that dream thinking, wow, I didn't know we could dream in another language, but I didn't really think much of it other than that. But it wasn't until about 22 years later when I met my shamanic teacher that I began to understand the significance of that meeting in that dream. You see, when I first started to do what's called shamanic journeying, where we basically meditate and put ourselves into a trance, and so that we can walk into the spirit world. When I first started doing that, we were instructed to connect with a spirit guide. And the very first time I tried to do this, that man from my dream, from when I was 16 years old, showed up. My sacred space in the spirit world is lit up by the moon. It's always nighttime, but if I can't find any other spirit guides, I can always find that main one. I call him Kamichi. So I'll refer to him as Kamichi from here on out. So Kamichi has a tendency to always show up where there is a fire, and he's just dancing around the fire. And a lot of times he will, even if I'm journeying with other people, he will show himself to all these other people as well. Um, and like, um, so connecting with him in the spiritual sense was something that I came to do quite often. But in October of 2012, I had an experience where he actually showed up in the physical. So that actually, it wasn't October of 2012, it was actually November. I remember that because it was the day that my mom passed away. Now, that morning, as you can imagine, it was quite dramatic. It was Thanksgiving, and when I got a call from my family letting me know that my mom was having CPR being performed on her, I knew exactly what that meant. And it was quite devastating. I had to leave work, and yeah, and then things didn't get much better at home. In fact, everything seemed to break down. Everybody seemed to be losing their mind. At the time, I lived on my uncle's property. He had two houses on the property. I lived on the smaller house, and he lived in the main one. And family was beginning to all come to the property to mourn. And my uncle ended up laying hands on my sister, my youngest sister, I'm currently estranged from. But so I ended up having to call the cops on him, and the cops didn't do anything like take him to jail. So they just ended up leaving. And then within 6 or 7 hours later, he was beating up another woman. And so I had to call the cops again, and he got arrested this time. And I remember just being traumatized by the whole day. It had just been one of the worst days of my life. And so that evening, we were having a fire in between both of the houses. We were just sitting outside and sitting around this fire. And it was me and my sister's girlfriend that were just sitting at the fire. I don't know where my sister was at. She was probably in the house. And my boyfriend, he was in my house or our house at the time. And so I find myself putting myself in a trance just by staring at this fire and being like just completely traumatized. Um, I think walking in the spirit world was something that I've been doing since I was 5 years old. And so whenever I would get into traumatic experiences, I would step into the spirit world to escape what was going on in the physical. So when I was an adult and I had gone through these traumatic experiences, it just felt very natural to just slip right into the spirit world. And as I'm sitting there, just staring at the fire in my own mind, I'm not listening to anything that my sister's girlfriend is saying to me. She's going on and on and on and on, but nothing is going into my head because I'm so in my own head. I'm completely disassociated from her, and not on purpose, just because I was so traumatized. But anyways, I suddenly began to hear footsteps, like a man's footsteps, coming from my house to me, where I was sitting at the fire. And I didn't even bother to look because I just assumed it was my boyfriend. And I just heard the steps get louder and louder and louder, and then they stopped right behind me, directly behind me, and which wasn't unusual to me because I just assumed it was my boyfriend, like I said. But um, I kind of expected him to like put his hands on my shoulders just to let me know that, hey, I'm here for you. But I felt no hands on my shoulders. And so I turned around like, what is my boyfriend doing? But nobody was there. And so I turned the other direction. Nobody was there except for the girl that was sitting next to me talking. And she sees me looking around. And she's like, what are you doing? You're freaking me out. And I was like, where's my boyfriend? I could have swore I heard footsteps right behind me, and I'm still like looking around, like I can't believe that my boyfriend's not behind me. And so at one point, when I turned to the left, I remember seeing over on the property line at the fence line, I saw a white duck. And we had two white ducks on the property. And so that wasn't unusual for me. And somehow I convinced myself that those footsteps were the ducks. I know it was highly unlikely, but my mind needed something to grasp because I couldn't believe what I had just heard so strongly and felt. It wasn't just the sounds, I felt like somebody was walking right up to me. So the next day, it dawned on me that that duck that I had seen had been dead for about 3 weeks. I had totally forgotten about it because of how traumatized I was. And so when I saw it, I just, oh, there's the duck. I didn't think, oh my God, that duck is dead. So I went to go see my shamanic teacher after this and tell her about the duck. And she told me that duck medicine is all about protection, which coincidentally is exactly what I was needing that night because I was so like traumatized and feeling unsafe, and I just felt like the rugs had been pulled out from beneath me. And anyways, it was a horrific day. And so I ended up studying duck medicine, and I can't remember exactly all what the duck medicine was about. um, but it was a trip. I didn't realize that our spirit guides could like walk in the physical, and so that was the first for me. And actually it was the last too. I haven't had that experience again since, but I just wanted to share that with you guys, in case you ever have had any experiences like that. No, you're probably not crazy. You probably just have a spirit guide, with you during your times of difficulty. At least that's what the case was with me. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, don't forget to give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And you may want to hit that notification bell in case you want to get notified anytime that I post a video, because it's kind of random when I do it. I try to do it at least once or twice a week, but I can't always do that. But anyways, thanks for listening, and I will see you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.